Hello, I'm John Furrier with theCUBE, host here in the New York Stock Exchange CUBE studios. Of course, we have our Palo Alto studios connecting Silicon Valley and Wall Street. It's part of our Crypto Trailblazers series where we feature the leaders who are making it happen, bringing this next generation infrastructure, kind of rewiring the financial infrastructure with crypto, with the advent of stablecoins and the advancements in the performance and the security and scalability of blockchain. You're starting to see clear lines of sight into where the innovation is and where the value is created. Of course, when you have value creation, you have value extraction. We have Haonan here, the co-founder and CEO of Codex. Great to have you on. Thanks for joining the Leaders series. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Podcast is growing. This is our most popular ongoing podcast series. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So we were riffing before we came on camera about the entrepreneurial, the financial institutions. I said, you know, it kind of was a mercenary environment in the crypto world. Yeah, let's take down the old guard. And now more of a missionary, hey, people are leaning in and working together. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think crypto started as a sort of, the roots of crypto are anachronistic and focused on sort of taking down existing systems and creating a parallel system. Yeah. I think what we're seeing this cycle is that the most promising areas for crypto to go to next are about mishmashing the traditional world along crypto rails. Yeah. I think we see a future where stablecoins are just basic infrastructure that underlies the modern economy in the way that a bank account might do so today.
You know, we're here, today's going to be a great day. We've got a lot of interviews, Ethereum's 10-year anniversary. Our team in 2017 started to build on Ethereum. We had a CUBE coin, smart contracts, all those cool ideas. And then it kind of stalled because of the whole ICO craze. But now it's back. Smart contracts are a big part of it. And stable coins, the recent regulatory regime is very pro-crypto. And as a result, there's been some really cool things happening. Talk about what you guys do and why now is an important part of the market and the growth.
Yeah, so Codex is Ethereum's stablecoin chain. So $160 billion of stablecoins sit on Ethereum today. This is the predominant amount of stablecoins globally, actually, on Ethereum. Now the issue is that they don't move quite as much on Ethereum as they do on other chains. And part of that is because you know, the sort of next generation of features and functionality and ease of use needs to happen. And so that's where we come in. We see a future where stablecoins sit on Ethereum, but they move on Codex. As for why now in particular stablecoins are blowing up and in a good way, are accelerating, maybe is the better way to say it.
Yeah. I use that word all the time, by the way. Blowing up is like, yeah, and it's slang for doing well, not blowing up as in crashing.
That's right, that's right. And I think why things are accelerating now is that, you know, in that 2017, 2018 era that you were talking about, because of the regulatory posture of the government, it became very difficult to link crypto systems with the real world, to link crypto systems with atoms. Mm-hmm. And so what ended up happening is you have these financial primitives that work fine, but they don't really move any real substantive physical value around. And so you have these fumes, basically. They're just going up and down on these roller coaster rides. What you're seeing now is that these crypto systems are plugging into the real world. They're intermediating cross-border transactions. They are providing credit in places where otherwise there would be no credit. Mm-hmm. Their FX is now moving on-chain as well. And so I think as you see these worlds collide and merge, things will just get faster and faster and faster.
Talk about the origination story. How did this all come together? How long? How big is your team? Give some stats.
Yeah. 5 years ago, I moved to a little hacker house in LA to live with Vitalik Buterin for 6 months to work on scaling with him. So that was my introduction to the space. I very much grew up in Ethereum, so to speak.
It's hardcore. He's a founder, yeah, of course.
And so I you know, you'd come downstairs and, you know, Ashton Kutcher's in the kitchen or, you know, he's on the phone of Elon or something. So, you know, it was a fresh sort of blow to the ego every morning, which I think is very, very healthy.
Yeah, it's hot area.
And so, you know, I think it very much upped my ambitions on what is achievable at such a young age. Yeah. And that was probably one sort of seminal moment. I think over a period of time working on scaling, it seemed to me that scaling as sort of a technical construct was getting simpler and simpler and easier and easier. It really seemed to me the problem was how do you apply this technology in a way that is product specific and industry vertical specific. And it seemed to me stablecoins were underserved. Now this was contrarian 2 years ago.
Yeah, this is
it's
radical.
becoming a bit more consensus now.
Yeah, so you were, in the early days, you're pioneering, trailblazing there. If you look at where we are now, take us through the thought process, because again, a lot of work has gone on. And you mentioned primitives. When I hear primitives, I think programming. We're talking about programmable money.
Yeah.
The infrastructure is what you're involved in.
Totally.
Take us through some of the key moments and when you kind of knew, pre-regime now, but like when you kind of had a feeling it was going to happen.
Yeah, I think there are a couple moments. I think famously many crypto companies don't use crypto. Because so much of crypto at that time was difficult to use, or like you really wouldn't use it unless you were speculating on something or buying a picture of a cat and you hope the picture of the cat goes up. There's one notable exception. When you need to pay a contractor in a foreign country, let's say in Malaysia, we would use stablecoins. And not because of ideological reasons or, I need to look like I'm really into, I'm an anarchist, right? Or that, I need to check some box, just because it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
It settles immediately, not quite immediately, but near immediately, right? And that was one early moment in my mind that made me think,
yeah, this works. It works.
It really works.
Yeah, this works. Take me through where we are today in the performance, because a lot of people that are coming in, again, part of the series is to kind of cover the mainstreaming of it while kind of telling the OG stories.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're observing in these interviews is, okay, there's definitely enthusiasm.
Yeah.
On the mainstream side, there's still that confidence level. So enthusiasm and confidence right next to each other. So we're close to like that tipping point of pure confidence and obviously reliability. What's your take on the narrative of, not that it's a mainstream narrative, but it's definitely on people's minds. Will it work? Will I lose my coins? What's the custody issue? Because a lot of the things that were problems just a few years ago now are going away.
Absolutely.
What are some of those things?
Absolutely. I think, previously many of these custody solutions are difficult to use. Previously, gas fees are enormously volatile and difficult to wrangle. These problems are all largely going away. I think most crucially, there's a perception, legitimization that is happening. When you have the treasury sector, you're talking about stablecoins constantly as a form of extending American dominance globally. I think that very much legitimizes stablecoins and makes foreign governments also start to think perhaps we should do something as well.
When I talk to people under the age of 30, even 35, let's say 30, they can't comprehend why people don't get it.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the digital convergence of life, you mentioned real world assets is one of the hottest areas too. Physical AI is a topic that Jensen Huang talks about with NVIDIA all the time. I mean, AI has tokens, and there's tokens over here, both bounded by power. So similarities, and that world's coming together. The digital world we live in is we're already digital.
Totally.
So talk about the importance of stable coins, why that piece is so important. I mean, you saw it early on before, it was kind of endorsed, if you will, as a mechanism, so it works. Now it's scaling, because now you have a lot of consensus around, okay, the government's backing it with the USD, mainstream institutions are leaning in, the payment rails are looking good, settlement rails are looking good, so it's moving in the right direction. Talk about why the stablecoin piece is super valuable.
Yeah, I think stablecoins can sound quite abstract sometimes. To make it concrete, stablecoins enable people to transfer the fruits of their labor across space and time in the most efficient way. Mm-hmm. And here in the US, we don't feel this as much. You swipe your card, it mostly works, it's fine. But there are parts of the world where the fruits of people's labor is robbed away from them by inflation, is robbed away from them by currency controls, is robbed away from them by inefficient and ineffective banking services. So stablecoins offer sort of a leveling of the playing field in a way that previously was not possible.
You mentioned cross-border transactions earlier. I mean, this is what we're talking about. You could be an e-commerce player in the US serving goods in other countries, and the currency fluctuations could literally be the difference between being affordable or not.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's real. I mean, that's not like made up.
100%. And for transactions to cross-border today, often they are too slow or too expensive. And certainly for a set of businesses that have to transact frequently across these corridors, stablecoins already make sense. I think broadly, if you think about our mission here at Codex, stablecoins make sense in these crazy situations already. Crazy governments, crazy sort of business situations, it already makes sense. What we want to do is we want to broaden the appeal of these systems such that they make sense for an increasingly large amount of businesses and people, to make them mainstream. That's the vision.
It's no-brainer that you see on your phone, everyone sees Apple Pay, it's going to be a digital wallet, that's going to be, from a user standpoint, very easy. That's a no-brainer use case, that's coming fast. So talk about how you guys fit into that. What do you guys do? Explain where you sit in the stack, what is the offering, what's the platform look like, how do you fit, and how do you accelerate that scale adoption?
100%. So we're an Ethereum L2 that's focused on stablecoins, and we think the most important property of a stablecoin chain is liquidity. And so our first product is Codex FX, which enables people to move between fiat and stables seamlessly, as well as between different types of stables seamlessly. And so if you're trying to convert $20 million of fiat into stablecoins, we're probably the best people to call. We can do it for you cheapest, fastest, and easiest.
Or if I have my own crypto and I want to convert to fiat, same thing?
We're less focused on sort of that kind of just crypto token business. There are others that are focused on that. We want to be ruthlessly focused on stablecoins and stablecoins.
Fiat to stablecoin.
Fiat, stablecoin, stablecoin, fiat.
Got it, okay.
Stablecoin, stablecoin.
Got it, yeah. So you're on the stablecoin, so you're not going to let other people deal with the crypto a little bit more. What's the reason behind that? Focus or?
So traditionally, chain companies don't focus on this border, right? There's this border between fiat and stables. Mm-hmm. And most chain companies don't bother because why would you? You're a crypto native chain company, fiat, annoying, difficult, dirty, don't touch it. We think that this is a big mistake. We think that for these systems to really be useful for a mainstream audience, that this border between fiat and stablecoins needs to collapse entirely. And so we are ruthlessly focused on this. We're staffed against it. We wake up every morning thinking about this. How do we eliminate this border to the point where it's zero?
What's the view of the private chains emerging? You're starting to see a lot more, public-private kind of hyper-converged, if you will, environments. Stablecoin fits in that too?
Absolutely. I think you're seeing, this is sort of the best, the holy grail, right? the chain that becomes where all the stablecoin transactions happen and all the sort of other financial primitives will be built on top of stablecoins will be worth trillions. This is the holy grail. And so there are multiple aspirants to this holy grail.
A lot of people are seeking the holy grail.
A lot of people seeking the holy grail. And so there's one category approach, which is don't bother with Ethereum, right? Don't build an Ethereum community, build your own thing. And we're somewhat skeptical of that approach. I think it creates a couple problems. One is neutrality. So many of the folks that are building, these alt L1s are themselves running a fintech business or a stablecoin issuer business. And the question to ask is, well, if you're another business that's considering deploying on this chain, do you want to entrust your future to your adversary? And I think the lessons of the history of technology is that open systems win. Yeah,
we were talking about that before we came on camera. You asked about the 90s. You remember the 90s, network operating systems were controlled by the mainframe companies, IBM, Digital Equipment Corporation, a bunch of mini computers. And then the OSI model came out, TCP IP came out, you had low layer standardization on transmission and the physical wire. And that created the interoperability. And then ultimately the death of NOSes, or NOS, network operating systems. So I ask that because I wonder, because I think about this a lot, maybe I'm kind of off base, but like, if you have too many siloed proprietary solutions, I mean, the mainframe was a full stack. I mean, IBM had their full stack of applications all the way down to the token level, token ring. Ethernet ended up winning. Is that a bad analogy to think about in terms of crypto, or is it similar? I mean, it's kind of a weird analogy, but what's your take on that? Because I think like open always wins. I'm an open person. I think open source won because the collective intelligence of the community. Open protocols win. Internet won. That was open.
I'm biased here, of course, but I think what you're saying resonates a lot with me. And I think a lot of these alt L1 approaches that are basically private companies seeking to own this entire stack will fail, just as mainframes did.
And so, yeah, they might get a couple wins. That's your point about being a fintech company.
Yeah.
They're essentially going to target use cases, lock in, and they ultimately become a siloed chain unless they're interoperable.
Yeah, I think the issue is greed.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question. What's the biggest misconception of Ethereum right now?
Yeah, I think one underappreciated fact is just how much of the existing stablecoin product market fit sits on Ethereum today.
Yeah.
The bulk of stablecoins sit on Ethereum today. It's sort of Wall Street's default choice.
Yeah.
When you think about a default neutral layer to transact on, Ethereum is the first one that comes to mind. And this has all been achieved despite the complete lack of a BD motion. Historically, there's nobody you can call. There's nobody, you don't pick up the phone and somebody at the ETH picks up, it doesn't happen.
No one person in charge.
That's right.
That's right. So talk about the culture of your company, because every company has a unique culture. Intel had Moore's Law, cadence of Moore's Law, well documented. Yeah. Is there a culture that you guys have? What's it like working at your company? Are you looking to hire? What's the focus? Take us through some of the day in the life of what you guys are working on.
I think we're a company that's ruthlessly focused on what is, intellectually honest and intellectually true, and it's definitely a place that's an idea meritocracy, which means that it doesn't matter, whether you just joined the company or you've been there forever. The right idea will win, not the right person. I think it's also a very flat organization, and people feel very comfortable telling me what I'm doing wrong. As for on the recruiting side, I think one of the big hires we're looking for right now is a excellent marketing person. Yeah. And so to the extent that you have any recommendations or your audience does, please hit me up.
Great. What's the coolest thing you're working on right now?
We're working on shifting the FX that we are doing. We're already doing it, but it's off-chain. We want to shift it to being on-chain. And we want to provide a way for retail audience to really capture a lot of the economics of that machine. Mm-hmm. And so we think we can generate pretty low risk, 20% plus yields for retail if they stake local currencies in our pools. And so that's something that we're very excited about. In
terms of your target customer to engage with you guys, who are they? What's their category? And what's the engagement like?
Yeah, so most of our customers are fintechs and PSPs and exchanges, these sort of institutional customers that are accessing stablecoins on a wholesale basis is the way to think about it. Mm-hmm. We haven't extended into retail quite yet. It's maybe not worth the trouble sometimes for now. But if you're looking to turn $20 million of fiat to stablecoins, give us a ring. We're probably the best people to do it.
And why are people doing that? Just explain that concept, because this is where the economics start to kick in.
Yeah.
A lot of people see the activity, they get the structural positioning of how things are going down. Certainly the U.S. Treasury and the Treasury Secretary is endorsing it. What's the motivation?
Yeah. So these folks that we're engaging with are basically the new nodes of this parallel payment infrastructure that is built on top of stablecoin rails. And so typically they are acquiring those stablecoins to then distribute down below. So perhaps it is a retail customer that wants to purchase stablecoins to prevent his earnings from being hyperinflated away. Perhaps it's somebody who wants to purchase stablecoins to do remittance from the US to the Philippines. Yeah. The use cases are sort of myriad. Yeah. But by engaging at sort of this wholesale level, we're able to really have a ton of impact very quickly.
I mean, it sets the system up, and I like that system thinking. I want to get your thoughts on, so that's awesome, by the way, so thanks for doing that. I want to get your thoughts on what you said earlier about people's work.
Yeah.
Tools are different than work. Agents are bringing this idea that tools aren't the issue, it's the work product. And in smart contracts, one of the main benefits of the chain is that you can actually remove the middleman between two workers.
That's right.
And do a smart contract and have value created and then measured and captured.
That's right.
Talk about that use case, because the ultimate benefit on the Ethereum is the users, people doing the work. What's your reaction to that? What's your commentary?
I think there's a variety of benefits. The first benefit is just the economics are incredibly efficient. If you think about a Tether, which in a way is the world's largest narrowbank, you could staff Tether with probably 15 people. You could fire pretty much everybody else and you'd probably be fine. And the thing generates $5 billion of free cash flow. It's possibly one of the best businesses of all time, stretching all the way back to the Medicis.
Yeah, it's better than Google.
It's almost like what every tech company wishes they were.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's a very interesting moment in technology where the traditional tech names are actually becoming not what classically are tech properties, right? They're becoming capital intensive. There's becoming a variable cost to their operations. You gotta buy the power plants. You gotta create, buy the chips. Inference costs money, right? Yeah. And so in a way, traditional tech is actually becoming less tech-like in sort of the economic.
Yeah, because the CapEx expenditures are huge.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's underappreciated, especially when everybody's default investment path is the S&P, and 40% of the allocation is in these 6 tech names. So it's a very interesting moment where the traditional tech names are becoming less techy, and you have these emerging stablecoin companies that have the properties of kind of the classic tech company, right? Just incredible, zero marginal cost, just like they can grow to the moon. I think it's a very interesting moment in history.
And it's interesting because tech is where all the entrepreneurship has been. I want to ask you to wrap up is, in finance we're seeing, at least my observation, is there's a financial entrepreneurial market in kind of a tech way. There's been always entrepreneurship in finance. Oh yeah, I'll just ride someone's prepaid rails or something, maybe make 30 million, buy a boat and a house in the Hamptons. Here it's different. You could actually take down a market.
That's right.
That's real entrepreneurship. $1 billion valuation or more. Like mentioned Tether. So in the finance side, they don't have the concept of product managers. So there's financial products that come out of what you're doing. So I'm speculating or guessing, or predicting that there's going to be new products that emerge. Like in cloud, we saw Airbnb. Airbnb doesn't exist without AWS. In fact,
right.
They probably never would have even done anything if they had to buy a server. Okay, so is there an Airbnb-like moment inside the financial products?
I think so. I think you're certainly right. I think the prize here is very much more than a Hamptons house and a boat. I think the prize here is much greater than that.
I had to goof on the New Yorkers. I'm from California. So kind of a dig. No, but it's nice to have a house in the Hamptons.
It's
but
nice.
It's not, but you get rich. You don't actually take, entrepreneurship is about like taking territory.
I think so. I think if you're primarily motivated by the Hamptons house and the boat, this is probably not the most direct path to it. I think there are easier ways to get to that goal. I think if you want to build a lasting institution, the way that the New York Stock Exchange was built way back in the day, then I think stablecoins today are fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I like about the conversation in Ethereum too is that the conversations are about building something meaningful and durable.
Absolutely.
Versus get-rich-quick schemes, which is not just a New York thing. Just some people have that orientation. I mean, even in California, I've seen people trying to flip a company too fast. They're just in it for the money. The best companies are formed on missions.
That's right. Sort of irrationally committed to the mission.
Yeah, they're crazy. What's that idea?
That's right.
Living in renting my room out? What is that? Stupid idea. I mean, how many stories have we heard there? Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on and explaining all the action and certainly trailblazing crypto and bringing it mainstream.
Yeah.
Thanks for what you do.
Thanks so much for having us.
All right, I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE. Blazing the trail here, featuring the leaders who are making it happen. The durability, the long game of financial infrastructure is changing, it's rewiring, it's being recast. And again, AI, crypto, 2 hot areas, all being implemented at the infrastructure level, and that's where the change is. It's an enabler, it's accelerating value and value extraction. Thanks for watching.